How does a priest afford a G-Wagon? How does the Prime Minister of Georgia afford a $30,000 watch? All these questions will be answered today. Eastern Europe is known for being comically the most corrupt place in Europe, and you see some crazy stuff if you ever walked in an East European city. The average citizen makes $5,000 a year here. If so, how did I see 5 Rolls Royces in a row? I'm in Armenia. Why are there $1 million Lamborghinis on the streets? What the is going on here? The main cause of corruption is of course money, and money is hard to come by when your whole regime and structure has been destroyed because people got tired of Moscow shit in 1991 and like 80 billion wars broke out as soon as the USSR collapsed. That system collapsing literally made tens of millions of people go to poverty. While everything was tied to each other in the USSR, the people lived well compared to how they lived after it collapsed because their entire countries went through industrialization with other countries in mind, because the Soviet Union was one country and was meant to work in synergy with each other. The Soviet Union existing also stopped a lot of wars from happening. Don't believe me? Look up how many wars started as soon as the Soviet Union fell apart. But it would not be as bad as it was if the wealth that the countries themselves had actually got divided even a bit decently. Because here's the thing, you see the Soviet Union here, 15 fucking countries with over 290 million people living in it at the time. Imagine how much culture, how much wealth, how much potential for good and profitable industries each one of these countries have, and then split absolutely all of that wealth with like 100 people. Sounds like bullshit, right? Well, that's what happened, and that's how you get oligarchs in the world. Oligarchy is a Greek word and literally means rule of law, which is exactly what happened to the Soviet Union. 290 million people's lives and futures were destined by some oligarchs who only wanted to fuck Russian girls,
where's the hotties,
and be on their yacht. While that is a reasonable desire, realizing that you're also putting 290 million people in poverty should also be up there in your mind with just fucking girls on yachts. Russian oligarchs are so well known in the world, they're literally a meme and always used as villains in movies like John Wick and action flicks. But what a lot of these people don't realize is that oligarchs are not only Russian, but from every single Soviet country. But because Russia had the most population from the USSR, most oligarchs are Russian. People being put in a situation like this where they have to struggle for money while their countries are being pillaged by these oligarchs for their resources, and then most likely a war is also going on in their country, put people in the mentality of just doing whatever is the best for them as long as they survived, made it out of poverty, and earned at least a livable wage. And I don't think a lot of you actually realize what kind of poverty I'm talking about and how much money people were making. My personal example is Georgia, because I'm Georgian, and Georgians did not starve or have major problems with food consumption because most industry in Georgia is agriculture, so people had food at least. However, the people did not have money at all, to the point where my father was a security guard in Tbilisi airport after the collapse of the USSR, and guess how much money he earned in a month? $1,000, $500, $300, $200 a month. He earned 80 lari a month, which was $53 a month back then. The fucking electricity came on like 1 hour a day if you were lucky. Yo, it was a shithole. This country in the 90s was North Korea. If you went outside in 90s Georgia, you would come home without socks because they would steal it. Instead of these countries' economies actually developing naturally with just people getting good ideas and then making businesses out of them, some random people got put in charge of these massive local and international companies. And guess what? They did not know how to run the fucking company. If you're some random oligarch who only got this massive nationwide popular company just because you were friends with the Soviet higher-ups, how the fuck would you know how to actually run a company? So this led to companies being shit and also just people stealing a lot of money. And these companies just have an obvious monopoly on things you need to live, such as water, power, the legendary one being gas. Gazprom being the single company that made 90% of billionaires you see in Eastern Europe. The communist regimes that ruled the region for decades left behind a culture of nepotism, bribery that still affects everything from politics to business to education. For example, my dad knew a guy who would sneak Western stuff in from the border, and that's how he got his Queen CDs in the USSR. According to Transparency International, and if you're East European, you just open your eyes and you can see for yourself, corruption remains rampant in East Europe and Central Asia as many countries reach historic lows in their corruption perceptions index. Corruption is not only horrible because it undermines democracy and human rights, but it also fuels violent conflict and instability, as we have seen recently with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Under communism, people had to rely on personal connections and informal payments to access basic services and resources. This was because communism aimed to create a class classless society where everyone shared the benefits of labor and the state controlled all property and wealth. However, this also meant that there was no market mechanism to allocate products according to supply and demand, and no incentive for innovation or efficiency. As a result, many communist countries faced chronic shortages of goods and services, low quality production, and widespread corruption. And to cope with these problems, people often resorted to using their social networks or bribing officials to get what they needed. And this created a paradoxical situation where a system that was supposed to eliminate class differences and social inequalities actually reinforced them through informal practices and power relations. Another reason why Eastern Europe is so corrupt is the lack of effective anti-corruption reforms and institutions. While all 5 countries in the Eastern Partnership, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine, have adopted anti-corruption laws, they have not been implemented properly or enforced consistently. Civil society and media, which are essential for exposing and preventing corruption, are under attack in a lot of Eastern European countries, especially in Azerbaijan, where many activists and journalists have been harassed, detained, or imprisoned. Also, the corruption is not only in politics, but in the more corrupt countries like Russia, literally everywhere. For example, when Russia started drafting its citizens to be airdropped into Ukraine, butt-ass naked like Fortnite, a lot of people decided to escape Russia because they did not want to get drafted. A lot went into Armenia, but a lot also came to Georgia. So to come from Russia to Georgia, you have to go through Vladikavkaz. And the Vladikavkaz guards made bank during this because Russians literally had to bribe them to let them pass so they could get to the border control point of Georgia. Or else the Vladikavkaz guards just would not let them get to the border. Also, I just love how Eastern Europe claims to be religious and Orthodox Christian when they do anything but be what they say. A lot of people think Eastern Europe is very religious or something. Maybe the Caucasian countries, but I know for sure Russia is not religious. First of all, where in Orthodox Christianity does it say you should fucking destroy dams and invade other countries? A lot of the relationships in Eastern Europe comes with, oh yeah, we are all Orthodox Christian, which means we're all based Orthodox brothers. No, fuck you all. Do not put me with all of your shenanigans and monkey business, such as wars and ethnic cleansings. Not very Christ-like to a bunch of civilians in Bucha. Or which Bible were the Serbian soldiers reading that told them to care Bosnians? Jesus personally came down to Putin's palace and told him to invade Ukraine because Ukrainians were not. I will run your fucking fade. You guys do understand that fucking Canada is more religious and going to church regularly is more common there than in Russia, right? And they use this religion thing as a reason to do everything corrupt they can fucking imagine. First of all, priests in Orthodox Christian countries are riding around with expensive cars. Which fucking priest do you know that can afford a G-Wagon? Religion my ass. I'm Orthodox myself and I know for a fact that priests must be riding drippy in G-Wagons, and the money for those cars should come from church donations is nowhere to be found in any testament.
Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And then God said, "Let there be rich priests." And Eastern Europe was formed. I don't think many of you realize how crippling the corruption in Eastern Europe is. I know many Westerners like to bitch about how the Liberal Party or slightly less Liberal Party are the spawn of the devil and have wasted billions on fighting some war in some Middle Eastern country where they just barely discovered fire. I've been living most of my life in rural Banat, which is the equivalent of Minecraft Flatlands except in Serbia. And if you as much as touch as the tap water, you will instantly get the wither effect. And we've had this problem here for decades. And every election cycle, the presidential candidate promises us that he is gonna build a water factory. However, they have been promising this for 40 years at this point, and every time I open up the tap, it's fucking yellow! At least the mayor gets to ride his new BMW Series 7 while I get to enjoy my nice glass of piss water. Thanks, Obama. And you know, things are bad when Andrew Tate officially stated that he moved to Romania because it was corrupt and he could get away with whatever he wanted. And here's the thing, I'm not gonna hate on the MF for being successful and making money. But what I am gonna hate is when the state charges me a tax of over 40% so that my local Tate brother can have the time of his life while my shower is turned into a lemonade stand with lemonade I can't even drink.
Also, a very good thing, as you guys are aware, I'm a big supporter of Ukraine, seeing as I got fucking tear gassed because of it, and also, Russia did also invade my country when I was 7, so I think you guys already know my stance, and United 24 Media, aka Zelensky himself, got in touch with me, his stunt double, to talk about Ukraine. Of course, this is not a sponsorship because I'm not getting paid anything, I'm just supporting the cause. United 24 Media's channel has a lot of interesting stuff covering different topics. There are a lot of videos on the actual weaponry and how they work, drones, jets, guns, and I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty cool to see. But the video I liked more was about Chernobyl after the Russian occupation, because you know, it's like the most radioactive place in the world because of the accident in 86, so it was pretty interesting to see how a fucking war in the middle of it affected everything. It doesn't take a genius to know that firing bullets when there's a nuclear power plant nearby is not a good idea, and back in 86 when this whole ordeal was happening, if they didn't deal with the problem quickly, the radiation would have spread to all of Europe. So the fact that there was a battle going on there is crazy, and I'm close to Ukraine. Me and all my friends were like, hey, hold up. And this Chernobyl disaster is known worldwide. There was a very highly rated and very good HBO series made out of it. The whole Stalker series, which is Ukrainian, is about Chernobyl and the exclusion zone. While the area belongs back to Ukraine now, the remnants of the battle still remain, and it's very interesting to see, because all this happened already, and another power plant in Ukraine, Zaporizhzhia, is still getting bombed. The biggest power plant in Europe, by the way, so I'm over here begging on my knees that this shit doesn't turn into Chernobyl again, because I personally do not enjoy getting cancer from radiation. So I suggest you guys go to United 24 Media's channel and subscribe to them for the latest news and videos and documentaries on the war. It's very interesting and you'll find more stuff like what I talked about. Thank you. I also tweeted out asking you guys for your reasoning behind why Eastern Europe is corrupt. Here are very few good replies. First reply is by Walmau, whom I was on the national news with because someone decided to leak Pentagon files in his Discord, and the Georgian national news saw our video together about Georgia and decided to put me with him in his news segment. Let me take you through my thinking process. The CIA suggests for any prisoner of war or people under torture to smoke as much cigarettes as possible to keep sanity. Now, corrupt politicians make cigarettes as cheap as possible in Eastern European countries. As people are hooked in cigarettes, they can tolerate daily torture, i.e. living in Eastern European conditions. Hope this helps. This is a great saying by Mao because yeah, cigarettes are very cheap. When my friends from UK, France or Germany tell me how much cigarettes cost there, I'm like, what the fuck? Because a pack of red Marlboros literally costs 14.4 pounds in the UK. Guess how much it costs in the glorious country of Armenia? $2.18. The Caucasus countries are the greatest countries on the earth. Yet again, they power trip in like a Walmart manager. Very fair response. Soviet pussy must have gone crazy for them to be acting corrupt like that. Even got my man Stalin saying some crazy shit. This creature softened my heart of stone. She died, and with her died my last warm feelings for humanity. Then he proceeded to starve Ukrainians and have a stroke. Communism created the culture of bribery, which is the biggest factor in my opinion. Yeah, basically. I live in a village with around 2K people, and I still see mafia affiliates driving Lambos while there are beggars on the street. Yeah, refer back to my Armenia example. One guy told me that while there were people literally starving in the streets of Yerevan, the motherfuckers were driving Rolls Royces on the same streets. Because many important and high up government jobs have shit pay, so they start taking bribes. Yeah, I mean that would be true, but like if you actually look into it, many important higher up government jobs have actually gotten like way better official pay, and the official pay is not what they're fully making. They're making like bank because of bribery and stuff. For example, like the prime minister here makes more than $5,000 a month, which is plenty to live here because everything is cheap here, right? But yeah, a lot of high up officials still just let their communist greed get the best of them and start taking bribes. Static salaries in communism that could only be improved through corruption, etc. Both these are great reasons and literally what shaped post-Soviet society to this day. This nepotism is literally depicted in Soviet movies as well. For example, in the Georgian movie Mimino, where the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, is receiving new school desks, he asks the higher up on the phone that they send some of the new desks to the schools in his town. For ex-Soviet countries, in my opinion, the main cause of corruption is how unevenly the law was applied. Soviet officers and state friends would get to go around it, which made the rest rest have contempt for the law and government in general. The rest are in our parliaments. Also because of stupid USSR administrative systems that kept politicians poor with low salaries as a means for better control, now these systems place politicians in awkward positions where they have to take bribes to justify being in government or be rich upon entering. Very good argument at lick my balls. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So yeah guys, thank you for watching my video. I really enjoyed making this. It was pretty fun. But yeah, anyways, like and subscribe and goodbye. Fuck.